Just lie. Yes, you heard me. I'm telling you to lie. But before you clutch your pearls, hear me out. I'm not talking about scamming people or faking a British accent to get into a members only, although respect if you've pulled that off. I'm talking about the polite, strategic, completely harmless white lie, the kind that smooths out social interactions and, frankly, makes everyone's lives a little easier. Because in certain situations, being brutally honest isn't classy. It's just rude. And high society? Oh, they thrive on politeness. It's all about knowing when to tell the truth and when to politely adjust it. So today, I'm giving you 6 social situations where telling a refined little fib will instantly earn you respect. Not manipulation, not deception, just good manners wrapped in a little bit of verbal finesse. Let's get into it. And by the end of this, you'll be the most effortlessly charming person in any room. Situation 1. The career glow-up. All right, let's set the scene. You're at a work conference, balancing a lukewarm coffee and a name tag that's already peeling off. Some guy in an aggressively checkered blazer walks up, extends his hand, and hits you with, "So, what do you do?" Boom. Existential crisis activated. Because let's be real, we've all been there. Someone asks what you do for a living, and suddenly, your very normal, very respectable job doesn't feel quite fancy enough. Now, the trick here isn't to exaggerate. You don't need to say, "Oh, I manage global operations," when in reality, that just means you send emails to Karen in accounting. The real trick? Framing your answer in a way that's true but flattering. I learned this lesson the hard way. Once, I got seated next to a woman who had the energy of someone who had definitely been on a yacht that week. She had that effortless, I own cashmere sweatpants vibe. She turned to me and asked, "So what do you do?" And I cringe at this, blurted out, "Oh, I just do some content stuff online." You guys, she gave me the dreaded, "Oh, that's nice" nod. You know the one. The polite, disengaged nod that immediately ends a conversation. The nod that says, "I have already forgotten everything you just said." But then, later that night, I watched her ask someone else the same question. And this woman, who, by the way, was also a freelance writer, simply smiled and said, "I run a digital platform where I help businesses communicate their brand stories." And guess what? The yacht lady was fascinated. She leaned in. She asked follow-up questions. She was engaged. And that's when it hit me. The way we frame ourselves influences how others perceive us. But more importantly, it influences how we perceive ourselves. So, next time someone asks what you do, don't downplay it. Don't use the word just. Even if you think your job isn't fancy, own it. Elevate it. Instead of, "Oh, I just work in retail," say, "I help people find what they need and make their day a little easier." Instead of, "I'm just a stay-at-home mom," say, "I'm raising a tiny human and running a household. It's a full-time job." Instead of, "I do freelance stuff," say, "I run my own business helping brands tell their stories." Same job, different energy. Immediate respect. And if all else fails, just say you're in consulting. It works every time. Situation 2. The "Oh no, this house has no taste" compliment. A friend invited me to see their brand new apartment. I walked in, and immediately I thought, oh no. It screamed, "I have money, but no taste." It looked like a Vegas casino, and a Kardashian mansion had a baby. And that baby was raised on a strict diet of gold accents and LED lighting. But they were so excited. They turned to me, eyes shining, and asked, "What do you think?" Now let's be real. Honesty would be cruel. You cannot say, "Wow, it's so big," obvious shade. "Oh, you really went for it, huh?" A passive-aggressive masterpiece. This feels like a statement, but I'm not sure what it's saying. Social suicide. So I channeled my inner diplomat and went with, "Oh, this is so you. I love how bold you went with the design." Translation. I respect your choices, but I will not comment on the gold-plated, emerald green, black marble situation happening here. And here's the thing. You are not there to judge their taste. You are there because they are happy about their choices. And if they're happy, you should be happy for them. So, when in doubt, find something, anything, you can genuinely appreciate and build on that. Maybe it's the space. Maybe it's the view. Maybe it's the fact that the couch looks comfortable enough for a high-quality nap. Whatever it is, compliment that. And leave the interior design critiques to HGTV. Situation 3. The questionable wedding dress. Picture this. You're at a wedding. You've got a glass of champagne in one hand, a mini quiche in the other, and then it happens. The bride appears. Now, in an ideal world, every wedding dress would be a flawless vision of elegance. But in reality, sometimes the dress is stunning, just not on the person wearing it, and sometimes it's medieval princess meets curtain fabric. But here's the thing, you are not Anna Wintour. This is not a fashion critique session. This is someone's big day, and in this moment, your one and only job? Make sure the bride feels like a queen. So instead of blinking in horror, hit her with, "Oh my gosh, you radiate." This fits your personality perfectly, because at the end of the day, she feels beautiful, and that's all that matters. Situation 4. The baby test moment. Listen, not all babies are cute. Some come into this world looking like cherubs, others like tiny, angry old men who have seen things. But here's the problem. New parents, they do not see what we see. To them, this baby is the most breathtaking, heart-melting, practically divine creature to ever grace the planet. And they will present this baby to you with glowing pride, waiting for your reaction. And in that moment, you cannot, under any circumstances, hesitate, because even a fraction of a second too long, they will notice. So instead of panicking, you play it safe. Look at those little cheeks. She's just perfect. Why does this work? Cheeks are a guaranteed feature. All babies have them. Some babies have only cheeks. And calling them perfect? Beautifully vague, but deeply effective. If you want to go the extra mile, throw in, "Oh wow, she looks just like insert parent's name," even if she does not. It does not matter. Parents love hearing this. And just like that, you've passed the newborn admiration test with flying colors. Situation 5. The unfortunate homemade meal. There's a very particular kind of fear that comes with someone handing you a plate of food they made themselves, looking at you expectantly and saying, "I can't wait for you to try this." And then you take a bite and immediately regret every decision that led you to this moment. Maybe it's aggressively bland. Maybe it tastes like something went terribly wrong in the seasoning department. Maybe it's so bad that you actually start wondering if you can subtly fake a phone call and leave. But they're watching you, waiting for approval. This is when you do not say, "Wow, this is interesting. Oh, that's a flavor I wasn't expecting. It's so creative." Instead, go with, "This reminds me of something homemade I had as a kid." Doesn't matter what. Nostalgia distracts people, and just like that, you survive. Situation 6. The "how are you" trap. The world's most deceptively complicated question. How are you? Seems simple, right? Wrong. Because nobody actually wants the full truth. They don't want to hear that you're running on 4 hours of sleep. Your to-do list is actively plotting against you, and you just spent 20 minutes Googling, "Can you survive off coffee and spite alone?" No, they want a smooth, socially acceptable response. But here's the trick. Your answer should match the situation. For casual acquaintance or work-setting use, "Can't complain." "How's your day going?" Polite and redirects the conversation. For friend who might actually care, go with, somewhere between thriving and needing a nap. Relatable but not dramatic. Basically, the key to surviving the "how are you" test is reading the room. Too much honesty? People panic. Too little? You sound robotic. The sweet spot? Polite, slightly upgraded truth. And remember, if you're at a fancy event and want to sound effortlessly put together, just smile and say, "Fantastic," even if your eye is twitching from stress. The psychology behind these polite lies is fascinating. When we tell a little white lie, we're not just trying to impress others. We're making them feel good about themselves. And in high society, that's everything. Because sometimes, politeness is more important than brutal honesty. And now, you are armed with the tools to navigate any social situation with grace, charm, and just the right amount of strategic deception. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever used a polite lie to get out of a sticky situation? Drop your best one in the comments. See you in the next one. Stay classy, Manners Matters.